Hey everybody, I'm back today with one of my favorite storytellers, Laura Sim.
Hi, great to be here.
It's so great to have you. We are going to tell you some stories today. Laura, is there anything you want our audience to know about you before we
My
get
name's
started?
Laura. I'm originally from Southern California. Talia and I met in a writing type of class here in the city at the Magnet Theater. And I actually signed up to do Story 2 again starting in February.
Yes, I saw that in your email. I'm sorry I didn't reply. I was trying to figure out what my schedule is for classes because I have a lot of classes coming up in January.
This is a very interesting logistics conversation.
Yes, you know, once you start taking classes as an adult, you don't have anyone else organizing your schedule for you, so you got to
Do it.
You got to figure it out
Right now.
You know, and it's just something you can break your head on sometimes. But it's true. We met in a storytelling class at Magnet Theater. It was a great class. We met incredible people. A lot of moments of deep sincerity and connection, I would say.
I would say if you meet someone in a setting where you're sharing these personal stories with people you've never met before in your life, you get to be friends like that really quickly.
It's only a 6-week class, and I think by week 3, I felt like I had known these people for years.
We were hugging.
Yeah, a lot of hugging, a lot of cheering, not just a polite little clap, like full-bellied yelling for each other.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. Creative fellowship I got from that class.
Yes, it's something that I didn't even know how much I was lacking it. And then last year I started taking all these classes and I realized if I didn't have creative fellowship and encouragement and friendly faces, I wasn't going to keep making anything. So
Yeah. Talia, that's how you also met Lisi, our producer
exactly.
behind the camera.
Behind the
Shout out to
camera.
Lisi.
She's doing some great camera work for us, operating the switchboard. It's very fun. This is here at MNN, Manhattan Neighborhood Network, where they teach incredible classes in studio production, field cameras, and editing. It's also another place where there's such creative energy and enthusiasm and encouragement that it's spectacular. So. And you have to be a Manhattan resident to take the classes, and Laura, you're a Manhattan resident.
Ooh, fancy.
So, you know, anyway,
Cool.
great opportunities for everyone. So we're gonna get started with telling stories. Laura's gonna come up with some ideas
Okay.
for the story. So give me a word, please.
Okay. Hair.
Hair, H-A-I-R.
Roll.
Like
It's up to.
an actor plays a role or a roll of bread, or you roll down a hill.
The R-O-L-L.
Okay, R-O-L-L. And pick a triangle, please.
I don't think I picked this one, right?
You did not.
Okay. My 2 words were roll and hair.
Correct. And you have selected a story about friendship. And this could be fiction or nonfiction, whatever you like. Laura's going to think about it for a minute, and we'll reconvene.
Okay. I don't have trouble making friends. I am an extroverted person who does well when I have a lot of alone time. And the way that I get a lot of this alone time is I take trips by myself. When I take trips by myself, this is my way of making friends with my mind. I've gone all over the world just with a backpack, and I tell myself if I let all of the familiars fade away, the language, the locations, the geography, the favorite places, when you learn how to navigate a different city by yourself, a different part of the world, when you learn how to order breakfast in a new language, I have learned about myself what I am really made of and what I do when I freak out, when I miss a train, when I miss a plane, when I fall asleep and miss my stop. And on one of these trips, The most recent one that I took was to Italy. It was a really hard trip, this one, and it didn't quite meet a lot of expectations. The reason why I say that is because I was like, it wasn't my first time in Italy. I went all around. I went to like Tuscany, I went to Rome, I went to Florence, and it was tough because I found that for the first time, my itch to find alone time wasn't being scratched. I desired company. And that sounds like the most obvious thing, really. Like, of course you want company. Who goes on trips by yourself? But actually, I had avoided going on trips with friends for a really long time because I was afraid that friends would get sick of me, or I was afraid that I wouldn't know how to be with someone for a week straight. So rather than bother someone else to go on a trip with me and then bother them while I'm there, I thought, why not go to these places by myself? That explains how I went to Japan right before Italy, and I got my haircut there, and I was seeing the sights, and where I got my haircut was like in Harajuku, and it felt very cool. And I went to like onsens, which are like natural springs with like sulfuric water bubbling in the earth, and that was a very meditative trip. So when I went to Italy, I thought that this was the trip where I was gonna be on this roll, where I was just gonna find myself and do all these like eat, pray, love things that you expect to get out of a trip. I get there, I'm like, okay, the food is great. It's great to have drinks and talk with locals and see the beautiful museums and the art and hear the Italian language. But it was kind of just like being in New York. I was doing the same exact things. I was hanging out by myself, I was eating food, I was just sitting around in different cafes. And what I realized was that what I'm looking for is not necessarily alone time. I'm not looking for friendship necessarily either. What I was looking for was that inner peace that you look for when you are looking for adventure and serenity. All of that stuff that you look for on this trip was already in here. It was in my heart. It was without the need for all these new experiences. It's a struggle, I would say, to make friends with my mind. I would say the most painful part of it, to be honest, is when things so chaotic are happening inside your head and something gets lost in translation when they get spit out. That's actually the experience that I have right now, that I have so often in my life, where how can I translate what is going on inside my head? I don't know if I'm ever going to make friends with my mind. There are moments of peace and joy along with all the other emotions. But I don't think that's the point, to make friends with my mind. I think the point is to accept that my mind is what it is. And I guess that's why I'm here, to capture a document of how my mind is thinking right now and how my mind is feeling. And I may never be able to bridge the gap between what's going on in here and what goes on out there, and how something gets lost in translation, but I'm trying. And I think that I'll get better at this the more that I do it.
Thanks, Laura, for your story. I really appreciate that you really open up and talk about what's going on with you. It's really sweet.
Oh, thanks. It's the thing that I can talk most readily about because it's just right there, you know?
It's really interesting because, yes, I think we all have that experience where we're like lost in our own minds, but in the moment, that's not what always occurs to me first. So it's really, I just find it really lovely to know where your thoughts are.
Oh, thanks. It's great to hear that that was of some interest.
Definitely.
All right, are we doing your story?
Yes, we are.
Okay,
Okay. Words.
pick a word.
11.
Okay, E-L-E-V-E-N. E.N.
Okay. Bird.
B-I-R-D.
Okay. We're faced with a different choice right now. I am going to go with this.
All right, your prompt is a fairy tale of fiction.
Listen, as my frequent viewers know, this is one of my favorite genres, and truly I did not remember where it was. I every time keep trying to pick something different, and I feel like I keep picking the same things. All right, we'll figure it out. 11 and Bird, fairy tale. In a moment. Once upon a time, there were 11 fairies. Each of these 11 fairies lived in a different place. One lived in a lake, one lived in a river, one lived in the sea, a fourth lived in the ocean. One lived on an island, one lived at the beach, one lived on a mountain, one lived in the middle of an open meadow. That leaves 3 more fairies. And those last 3 fairies lived in the sky. One made its nest in a treetop. One was so high up in the mountain that it was snowy, not like the other mountain fairy that was filled with trees. This one was really high up there. And the last fairy lived in a cloud. Once a year, these 11 fairies would get together for a holiday. Some years they would rotate, visiting each other. But at a certain point, they all decided they just loved going to the cloud. And the fairy who lived in the cloud, of course, was very happy to host them. She loved seeing all of her sister fairies. But after a few years of hosting and making sure that everyone had food, and you know, all these fairies were coming from very different places, and that means their diets were all very different from one another, and their sleep patterns were very different, and what was comfortable to them was different. And the cloud fairy felt it was so important to make them all feel at home when they came to visit her. But that was a lot of work. See, when you don't host people, you don't realize how much effort goes into it. But when you do it year after year after year, it's hard and you get tired. And the fairy who lived in the cloud wanted everyone to feel so good, but she also wanted to rest. And it was ironic because it was the holiday of rest. This was the holiday when you're supposed to basically only eat and sleep. Those are the only things you do. I mean, you drink some water also, and you relax and you play games, but there's nothing on the agenda. There's no specific food to eat. There's no specific anything. Just that you're together with people you love and you rest and you enjoy great food. So this one year that the cloud fairy got really tired of it, all of the 11 fairies were gathered around in the cloud. And the cloud fairy said, "My sisters, my fellow fairies, I love each and every one of you. Some of you bring the spirit of the earth. Some of you bring the fluidity of water. Some of you like to soar like a bird, just like me. I hope you'll understand when I tell you that my wings are tired. I don't know if I can do this for many more years. I love spending this holiday with you, and I hope we will continue to do that. But I wonder how you would feel if we went back to the rotation. I've been so happy that you've enjoyed coming to me. and that I've been able to make you feel at home, more than at home, that you can enjoy the festivities, and that we could really be comfortable with one another. But I don't know if I can do it anymore. I'm tired. And the other 10 fairies looked at each other. They felt so bad. They had no idea the cloud fairy felt like this. They had no idea that their enjoyment made her feel like she needed such a break. And on this holiday of all holidays, of course they wanted her to rest. One fairy after another said, yes, thank you for telling this to us. Yes, we want you to enjoy your holiday again and be able to have the rest that you've given us. Yes, we hope that next year you'll come to me, or maybe the year after that you'll come to me. You know, I had this idea for a recipe, and I had this idea for how to make the bed, and I had this idea for what the table might look like or what games we could play. One after another, they were chirping and couldn't stop talking about all their ideas. And the cloud fairy sat back. She took a breath, and she enjoyed having all of her sisters around her in her home. And she just said, thank you. Well, that was my little fairy tale. So
That was great. You just made that up?
I did make it up, but inspired by some real events.
Which part?
My mother and my aunt, in various ways, but in more recent years, especially my mother, for years hosted huge holidays for my family. And I knew there was work involved, but until I started hosting some of it or taking on more of the responsibilities, I just didn't realize how much, and I didn't realize how much additional pressure I put on my mother to we should do this recipe, or we should get this ingredient, or, different ways where we've all been demanding, not intentionally. We all kind of wanted to make it even better, but it became a lot. And at a certain point for my mother, it was just she just needed a break. And I think it was, hard for her to ask for that because she was so used to doing this. She gave so much of herself, her time, and her energy to everyone in the family. And I don't know. So I wanted to tell a story, I guess, where we could all try to take away a way to make it a little easier to ask for what we need.
That's great, and that's the point of fairy tales. You extract a little bit of it and apply it to your life.
Yep. Well, Laura, thank you so much for being on the show. Now you've learned a little bit about Laura and a little bit about me.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
This
and
so much fun.
You have a very calming voice, I must say.
Thank you.
You should do a podcast.
Perhaps I will. Let me know if you're looking for someone. All right, well, we hope you'll catch us back again at Lots of Stories and all of our various projects. And have a great week.